Welcome back, everyone, to part 16 of the D7 battlecruiser build. Today we're going to start doing some detail work on the Cobra head, painting up all around that bridge area there. So let's go take a look. Okay, so we're going to paint the top piece here now. Figure I'd give you a chance to see me doing that. Going in here and getting all, but we're going to leave these pieces the lighter gray. They're going to have to do the same here for these parts, but I still have to scrape these areas out for the light to come through better. So I'm going to hold off on that, but I keep putting that off and I really got to get it done, but I figure I'd do something to get this, you know, looking like it's some progress on this one. The other one's getting pretty good. It's getting down to gluing the top down, getting the wire hooked up and gluing the top down. I got little nubs that are going to go on the bottom, the hole where the brass pipe's going to go in, and then that goes into the bottom of the ship. I was going to do the little roundy things, but they're just not working right. You know, in order to hold this, to drill this out for the pipe, eventually it'll catch and this will spin, and just spinning a little bit, get rid of a little bit of that end of that ball makes them all loose, and it's just not worth it. I was hoping to have these so I could do a little tilt. They don't really have even, I guess it don't really matter because it's not giving it much of a tilt. I mean, I guess it can. You know, you can probably get like something like that going on, or a little bit like that, but oh well. We'll just keep them straight. We're just going to use these bottom pieces that insert into that for the posts, because I'm using just the smaller brass tube, the 1/4 inch, instead of the threaded rods, because they're really big, those lamp rods, and I don't want this big massive rod holding this little ship up. It doesn't need that much. So, and I already pre-drilled the bases, so they're ready. I might reinforce them because it is drilling that tube that they have for their pole. Their pole's like, this is theirs, and it's just a smidge. Actually, I think it fits inside. Yeah, see how it fits actually inside the 1/4 inch tube. So, I wish Polar Lights, since people are lighting these kits, a lot of them, would just, instead of making these heavy-duty solid rods, which I could see for like the, you know, the 1-350, you know, Enterprises that are huge. But for these smaller ones, you know, just make it a tube. It would be great. You know, even for the 1-350, because this is a heavy steel. This is a good rod. You know, and if that was just drilled, it doesn't need much, especially if you're just running only power up through it. One leg of, you know, one circuit of power. If you're going to start running multiples, it can get crazy. But if you're just running a single positive and negative, it's not a big deal. So, and a lot of times you can just send one. Like if you're doing multiple, like I did on the NX1, I made a switch to turn on the torpedo launchers. I just connected the negative down there and just ran another positive, so it was 2 hots. You know, one on the main power switch and one hot on that switch for the torpedo tubes, because I already have the ground or the neutral or negative already tied in to the circuit, so it wouldn't have to be that big of a hole. It would still fit, or, you know, make it a hair bigger rod, just a 1/4 inch. But anyway, we get by it, and it makes, I guess, for figuring out how you're going to do it. Let's see. So yeah, I already have the paint mixed. I'm going to start with this brush, and like I said, I like to go around. I thinned this out pretty good so it'll really level itself. I'm going to start going around and doing the edging first. And forgive me if I bring my light with the magnifying glass down. Sometimes it's a little easier to see what's going on. These brushes I have here, they lay down pretty flat. In this first coat, anything with these acrylics, especially after you thin them out, they don't, you'll see them move and like it won't lay completely level. You see it will separate a little bit, like kinda, and that's just normal. It's so thin. Once you get a first coat down, then the rest start going down much easier. This is where it gets fine in here. And that might be where I start moving stuff, or at least getting the light to come more forward here. Yeah, there we go. I can see better. I usually touch and then go up to it first. That way you don't have a big blotch of paint when you go up against it, and then it'll make that little round, you know, because you're getting more of the paint that's bulged on the brush than actually the brush touching. And then as you do, you want to just spread that stuff out. No big deal how it looks. Like I said, it's going to level. There was a particle there. Maybe from sanding or something. And this is a challenging ship. Sorry, I had brush in my mouth. This is a challenging ship to paint because it's such a crazy shape. It's hard to get the angles you want. I'm using 3 brushes. This one's pretty thin, pointy. This one's even got a finer point where I can get into that crevice there and that crevice there. Sometimes the runniness of the paint helps too, because you can almost push. This is where it gets tricky because I like to have my hand steady somewhere. And whoops. The nice thing about acrylics is if you hit anything, you just wipe it off. I like to have my hand resting on something. And it's okay to go over these edges because we're going to sand them clean to get that nice crisp edge there. There's no sense of masking it. It's actually good to kind of go over those edges just to make sure you get that nice crisp edge. And here's where I'm going to use that small one. There's a real tight like I said, if there's an oops, there's no big deal. Yeah, I got in there good, and I need to do that in this part too. So there's a little spot there. It's where the curve meets this flat edge. And being that I already painted it a gray, even though it's a lighter gray, right now, when this is wet, it looks almost like the light gray. Since I'm not going to use that for a minute, I'll put some water on it. Same with this one, so we don't get stiff bristles. And then I'll move to this flatter brush, which works really good for the big spots. And just kind of this is where it gets easy. You just kind of, like I said, it's okay if we go over that edge. It's not preferred because it'll give us a better, crisper edge. Once we scrape and, oops, that's a lot of paint there. Always go to a smaller spot, Kevin. Now we're starting to see the difference. I don't think you guys will with the glare. Yeah, I don't know if you're going to be able to see the... Yeah, no. The camera's not going to show the difference in the color. And it's subtle. They're only like a couple shades off. This one's a... What, this is the slate gray, and the other one's a sky gray. They're very close to being to each other, which makes them what I think they go together really well. Especially on your first coat, you don't want massive pooling, so then you just kind of self-level, but you don't have to go too crazy. Yeah, I'm so happy to get this part done. And to speed things up, I keep rinsing my brushes out because I'm changing them all the time. That way we don't get that paint buildup. To speed things up, a simple hair dryer will work, especially in the first coat. Sometimes my last coats I'll let dry natural because then they'll really level. And let's get this hair dryer somewhere where I can reach it. I need to get more power things so my cords aren't so... Oh, wow, that's weird. He went up and under here. And this, there we go. It doesn't take much. I already see a hair, but now that it's dry, I can... Yeah. Take a blade and just scrape it off. Maybe. There you go. Like, I'm all loaded with hair because the cats always want to come up and on me. I should actually change clothes every time, but I'll be changing clothes all day every time I paint. But it might be a good idea to take this off because I think if there's any hair it's going to come off anything, it's going to come off on my sleeves because I'm going over things with my sleeves. Yeah, we'll give it here a second and we'll go and do the second coat. But that helps also drying it so you can keep moving on. Also, isopropyl alcohol will help. If you mix that in with the paint. But I don't want it to dry too much while I'm still working with it, so... But with the airbrush, a lot of times I'll do that. Add some isopropyl alcohol so it dries faster. This is where I always gotta get a little angle so I can see in there. There we go. Make sure I'm hitting those edges good. Okay, just keep saying you want to pull that out a little bit. Keep going around this beam here. But as you see, I always anchor a finger. It helps me stay more level. And I'm almost having this brush almost completely flat, just a little angle. That way I get that nice crisp edge without having to mask anything. And if I do have a little, oops, nice thing about before I seal it with a clear, I can go in there and scrape it or hit it with a wet Q-tip, but since in there I would have to go in and actually scrape because it's such a tight little area. Let's hit more things that I need this angle of a light. Always touch before you and then move in. I find that seems to work the best for me. Get rid of the excess paint. There we go. Now I can straighten that out again. I gotta tighten the ball joint in that light too. It's starting to become a pain. But I've been using it for 3 or 4 years now. Twisting and turning it like that. So can't complain. It's the greatest thing that someone gifted me. Before I had googly eyes so I could see things up close. But then anytime you want to grab stuff, you could with those magnifying head things. You can't see when you need to go grab something. When you look away at something far away, it's all blurry. So that's where that light comes in handy. There we go. Now we can go back to the thicker brush. And I don't remember how many coats I had to do on the other one. I was also going over green. So this one might not take as many coats since it's a darker gray going over a lighter gray that are very similar anyway. No, and I didn't get up in there. In those areas I try to hit a little heavier and just not having to brush or able to brush that much in there leaves more paint in there. And then that way I don't have to keep going in that little area because that's where I'm going to make a boop and bump a wall and then have to clean it up. And at first I just kind of rub along the edge like that just to get the paint spreaded. And sometimes these edges I try to come out like that. And that gives me that nice edge that I'll eventually sand and clean up. why now I come back and pull this like that. And it is nice to keep your brush strokes the same direction if you can. Nice long ones if you can. It's not crucial because, like I said, this levels out pretty good. But still, it's a good practice. Come back here and go like that. And then especially when the clear hits it, it'll really level it out. Alright, coat 2's on. So I'm hoping this isn't going to take as many. Like I said, coats is the other. I went a little over. What is that going on there? We'll find out in a sec. Oh, it's just, yeah, I can see it now. Now it'll all come off when I sand it. And there's a cat hair, magically out of nowhere. They won't fall anywhere else. They'll fall where it's wet. Same thing with bugs in the in the airbrush booth. I never see them until I'm spraying, and then they'll fly right on your wet paint. I won't see a bug all day until I start spraying, and it probably has a lot to do with the lighting in there. Let's give this a quick try. And I think now, I don't know, you might be starting to see the difference. But, so I'm going to stop here, keep continuing, because it's just the same thing, repeat. And then I'll cut back and we'll start doing this area, because on this one, I'm going to want to get a nice crisp edge here, because this edge here is going to stay light. To get a nice crisp edge there, we'll tape that off, so that we get that nice crisp edge there. But I like to do that once I done this top first. But yeah, we'll do that, and then it's pretty much going in here with little brushes and carefully getting around there. That's the part, that's the tough one right there, and in here, but mostly that little trench there. But I don't think I used this real small one last time, and I should have. I used the next one. So let's get these moist. But yeah, we'll come back and we'll start on the other one. Okay, welcome back. We got all that done. It's probably a little bit hard to see, but it's definitely a shade different from that, or a couple of shades. So now we're going to go and do the lower deck, or the lower part of that. Is this the thinner one? Yeah, okay. So let's get started, and I like to get started on these edges. Take your time.
I'm really pleased with that. So it's still too thick. Lacquer out of the pan.
I think it's a little loud yet.
So I'm going to add some lacquer thinner to it.
Right here. Oh, I almost forgot. Well, I'll keep going around this part first. Forgot to mask that off. So we'll stay away from there for a sec. This one, it's easier to try to get the brush to lay flat down and just pull across. It's always, never can get a good angle. Where that is. It's always a tough spot, and I think that's the problem. It's not being able to get in a good angle there. Make sure the brush is not overly loaded. And try to get in there. It'd be easier if I could start from a direction. And come in, but I don't know if I can. If I can do this. And there's going to be some cleanup in there because it was last time. Because I can't get the brush flat where it doesn't want to, you know, you can just weeble a little bit and but before I go any further, let's give that a dry and then mask that. All we need to do is take a little bit of, that'll be thick enough because it really doesn't need to be thick. It's just one edge we're using. There we go. Now, the trick is being able to see to get it down flat. Oh, now we got a booger on that edge. There we go. I need to get some toothpicks. Toothpicks are a wonderful tool to push down tapes and stuff like that without scratching things up. Sometimes I use the ends of this, but it's not small and pointy enough to get down in those areas. And you just flap this excess over, don't matter. But you want to make sure you got it down tight. Yeah, and I'm all out of toothpicks. Any little flat wooden stick here. Get rid of those little burrs. So want those edges down nice and tight. Take a look with a magnifying glass and make sure I'm happy with that. Popsicle sticks work, but it's the pointy, nice pointiness of the toothpick, and then the other end you can use the flat round part. And that makes this easy because you can just go right up. Your first coat, you want to go light against your masks. That way you have less chance of it bleeding through. If it's heavy and wet, it can seep. So I'll do a lighter coat the first time. Then that kind of seals it. I might even give it a quick dry. Like I say, it's not crucial if you, oops, like I think there's a little piece of darker color up in there, and that's actually not going to matter because that's going to get silvered, so I'm not even going to worry about that. Now let's just concentrate on this edge. Nice and slow. Worked good. There we go. And I can go around and the other edges. The way this light's shining, give me a glare, it's hard to see. And it's not as crucial around that little teardroppy looking thing, because like I said, I'm gonna paint that silver, but it's easier to get this flat done first. I tried shaving some of these edges, but I started actually even burning through the other color, so I'll have to clear this and then do the lighter color around the edges and then probably just clean it off the top. Did we get everything in there? Yeah. A lot of paint, but that wasn't enough paint. I've definitely come to realize I need a bigger bench. Swinging these ships around, I'm always dealing with watching that I don't bonk things in. It's too many times I've bonked things in and scratched the paint or something. We'll try to make sure we get that nice and level anyway. Sometimes it's easier to get this up at an angle. And there's going to be cleaning of the walls. I had to on the last one. It's just, there's no way to get, there's always an obstacle in the way where you need to get the right angle to do it the way you want. It's even hard to get that corner because I want to come in this way, but then I hit that. And that's where I don't want to. want to hit. But like I said, wet Q-tip will go in there and clean it all up good. Here I find if you just use the tip, it'll actually start flowing. Also, you know, fills in that gap if you just make it real heavy, and then also it kind of eliminates how many times you got to go in there. I mean, I could do the darker gray and just leave the top a light gray, but I like it that it shows the light gray on the sides of those grills as well. So another good thing when you're painting around your masks is to paint along with the seam instead of painting in like to it. You can paint along the seam. You can make it easier. And again, one other reason of not masking this and just airbrushing it is for the fact that you can't have those edges. It's going to be tough to mask and do those little edges of these raised pieces with masking tape. If you're just going to let the tops be one color, yeah, that'd be easy. Just mask, you know, put some tape on there and cut around and you're good. But we're doing the edges as well. I'm finding that we don't need that brush. This heavy brush is working fine. This thinner one's working fine. And I'm not going to use this flat one, that's for sure, anymore. Get it semi-clean here while that's drying. I'll put this in some thinner. It's going to get goopy. We need to do a little bit of brush maintenance here. Let's speed this up. Be only one more coat. Put that back in the water. You might only have to do one more coat. That little ball I want to keep clean, but I can go back. Oops. I definitely hit the wall, up the wall there. Yep, just on the tip there, I think. It's hard to see, like I said, it's hard to tell when it's wet. It looks exactly like the lighter shade. I wasn't following what I was telling you guys and trying not to have your brush, or when you first reload your brush, it's good to touch somewhere else first. I see a hair. It's not visually showing, but I can see the. I might use one of these to help do the bigger parts. And smooth all that out like that. Because for some reason, if you notice it's kind of dry and clumpy, it's probably because you're working with it in small little spots. You can, if it doesn't dry completely, you can just come back and re-wet it. And be able to do, like I was saying before, try to pull in one direction. Let's go back to the small one. Those edges. And I still being careful around that beam. Just A, it's good practice, and B, it means you're not getting too much coats on it. Here we go with the fun part. That worked good because the paint flowed right into it. So there's where excess paint worked to my advantage. Ship being at a tilt, and I just pushed down and it flowed right up to the edge. I'm not even going to go in there. That looks good. Just try to blend that in there. Yeah, let's get these front edges again. If you're going to use that technique, stay back a little bit so you can let it push in and flow. Let's try this brush to get a good. Yeah, because it was looking a little funky there, but now it dried, it all settled down. Looks good. And I think that's it. It's really nicer. It's nicer doing this one because of the. You're only painting a darker gray over a lighter gray, so I didn't need to do so many coats as like I had to do with the green. Give that a little bit. And there we go. We got that top half done. Hard, like I say, the difference in the shading is going to be hard to tell, but especially now, once I get a clear on it, it'll help darken that up. So I'm going to do that here in a sec, but we need to scrape everything first too, and then I'm going to have to fix that. Since I did this base coat color right over a gray primer, I didn't probably add as many coats, and But I thought I had enough clear on there that I wouldn't have burned through, but I burned through a little bit. But like I said, we'll clear the whole thing good. Then I'll just come across here with the light gray. And then we'll just scrape whatever comes off the top and clean up whatever comes on the top. That's easier. So let's get that, we can probably pull that mask now too. We need to have that on there now. And hope and pray that we got a good line. I should have let it dry a little more. No, that's a good line. Because it does curve. So it's not a straight 90. So the tape had, you know, a little issue of, we got a little bit of a tape edge, but I found that the clear cleaned that up. Or once it fully cures, I can just hit it. I can just hit it with a, I took a little Scotch-Brite just to mow that edge down. But wow, that looks good. And then it's just going in and cleaning up these edges where I over. So that's why a good clear helps you not, for the most part, unlike what I did on the other side, on the front, it helps it not you won't scrape into the actual base coat. And if you have patience, you can actually just sit here with a wet Q-tip and it'll completely clear it and clean that. Just sometimes if it's a heavy coat or a heavy spillover, it might take a little more. But I definitely use that in the last step. I think there might be just something a little funky there that I gotta scrape. See, that helps. It's actually, instead of scraping on one side and the other, just scraping in the arc. But usually what I do is I run a Q-tip to wet the paint, and it helps it scrape better. It's not so dry and chunky where it may want to chip off. So that's where the, you know, these acrylics being water-based makes it so much easier. Yeah, see, like that, just whoop right off. And then I kind of take an edge a little more on the edge of the, instead of it just being a 90. Once you're happy, just go over it again with your wet Q-tip. I wish I had Q-tips that had more of a plastic handle, because once these little paper handles get wet, they start to get flubby like that. But there it is. So I'm going to clean up what I can. Need another Q-tip because that's all loose. Yeah, and this back half is always hard to hit. But I won't bore you with that. It'll just be cleaned up and just a little cleaning up. But there you have it. I'll go up and clean any oopses on the edges of the raised parts. Actually, I did pretty good on this one. There's a little bit here. which I find the tip of this X-Acto blade broke, but it gives you that little square part where it broke, and that works good for scraping because it's not overly sharp. But then if you need to use a sharp part, you just turn it over to the blade part. And it also gives me that nice square edge so I can kind of get really close like that. Actually, it didn't do as bad as I thought in here. Better than I did on the green one. And I can always come in here and hit it with the light, because it's way up high. So there's no danger of there's no danger of hitting what we just painted. But there we go. Till next time, we'll have this all cleaned up, and then we'll get to doing this so that way we can start painting that. And then this one's a little easier because I don't have to do the silver part here. I just got to do the gun steel here. I already did the gun steel in the back half. I just got to do the light gray. And we'll take it from there and get ready to glue these guys down. Still got to drill a hole in the bottom here. But yeah, it's coming along good. So until next time, I'll see you soon.